technology showcase by Cognixion.
Thank you, Gio. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. I have a little bit longer beard now than that picture was taken, so startup life ages you in a good way. But I wanted to share with you a little bit about my company, Cognixion, but before that, a little bit about me. So my background is actually kind of non-traditional in the sense that I got into the industry through design. Actually, I worked at Philips in the Philips Design Organization, so I was an internal design strategist, and I worked across healthcare, lighting, consumer electronics, semiconductors. And I helped Philips really think about what's next on the sort of 7 to 20-year horizon, which was fascinating to be inside of that environment. We also built interesting prototypes that disrupted categories, created new categories, also within healthcare. It was a personal story that got me into MedTech. My mom got sick with pneumonia. She was intubated in the ICU with sepsis, and she was struggling for her life, and she couldn't talk. So what got me into this was, how could you create an interface that a patient that is very compromised could intuitively understand how to use to communicate with doctors and loved ones on bedside? As a result of that work, that was in 2014, starting the company, we realized that there were millions and millions of people that were chronically unable to speak for a number of neurodegenerative and traumatic brain injuries and also developmental disorders. As a result of that, in the last 10 years, we've spent a tremendous amount of time understanding the way the mind and body work. And what we realized is, because we've solved some really hard problems as assistive technology for people with chronic needs for communication, what we realized is that there are tremendous opportunities to disrupt and accelerate transformation in brain health, specifically functional brain health. As many of you know, it's very expensive and time-consuming to build medical devices. On average, it can cost anywhere from $25 to $100 million for a fully integrated diagnostic device. However, if you're building SAMD, or software as a medical device, it's a lot cheaper and faster to build. So what we found was, as a result of over 400 unique neurological disorders that you could look at on the NIH website, many of those, if you were to try and venture back creating diagnostic devices or therapeutic devices for that, you're talking about tens of billions of dollars of capital and decades of time waiting for those things to take effect and commercialize. So what we found is that the sunk cost of building what we've built as a platform, we realized that we could actually leverage the sunk cost of the $25 million that we've already invested into Cognixion technology and unlock new investment opportunities to accelerate neurological SAMD applications. So what I'm sharing with you today is really just a leaderboard of the invasive or the assistive BCI, brain-computer interface market. This gives you an idea or an indication of how much money is flowing into the BCI industry. It's quite a lot. It's actually understated. If any of you are following the category, Precision Neuro just closed a $93 million round yesterday. And Neuralink is actually, they've closed over $680 million. So we're well over $1 billion in the last 5 years that have been invested. And none of these top 5 implantable companies have gone past their phase 1s, right? So they're all still well in their preclinicals or first in humans. So we would expect that in the next 5 to 10 years, there's easily going to be at least $1 to $2 more billion that need to be invested to commercialize the implantable BCIs, which there's a highest and best use case for those BCIs, but when you're talking about assistive technology for computer control, we think that there are better ways to solve that non-invasively. So you see us at the top. It was also mentioned earlier, Ceribell. Congratulations to those good folks at Ceribell for their venture work, and they just went IPO in October. So that was a really great big bell ringer for them. They're currently trading at around 17x revenue, which is pretty fantastic case study for MedTech. The types of conditions that we focus on are seen in this chart. So we primarily work with teens and adults that have acquired conditions or neurodegenerative conditions. There are also some congenital conditions such as autism or other CP and Down syndrome that are part of our addressable population. But this is just US prevalence data on chronic conditions that would benefit. So there's over 25 million people in the US alone. But if you titrate that back to those individuals who are severe enough to require a brain interface to interact with technology, we're talking about roughly 3.5 million in the US. And a dramatically smaller subset of that would be addressable through the implant market. So I'm going to take a step back for a moment. So going back to that use case of potentially non-regulated hardware that can unlock a tremendous breadth of very useful and impactful software applications. Apple did a really great job with the Apple Watch in building really advanced sensors into a form factor that people just want to wear. However, over the 10-year period of Apple Watch being in existence, there's been tremendous advances in software algorithms as far as diagnostics and also digital therapeutics. So we really envision the work that we're doing at Cognixion as addressing the central and peripheral nervous system as a neurology interface. So I'm happy to say you'll notice that there's a QR code on my slides. Feel free to scan that QR code if you want to learn more about what we've built, and it is available today for sale commercially in the US and Canada, and it's coming to Europe in 2025. So it's a fully integrated AR headset that includes EEG sensing, as well as other sensing for cervical control and pupil monitoring. And all of our biometric data is being processed on this Nucleus hip pack. It's about the size of an iPhone. We also can take an accessory cable and pull in data from other parts of the body, such as EMG, EKG, resting heart rate, respiratory. And so imagine that this is a full neurophysiology acquisition system that's wearable and wireless. And then we also provide a development software kit for those researchers. So again, we started in assistive technology at the top, but customers like Johns Hopkins, the VA, Memorial Hermann, Northwell Health, and others are all pursuing monitoring, sensor fusion, telehealth, assessments, and diagnostics and therapeutic applications on our platform. So it's going to be a very exciting time in the next few years to see what these organizations are coming up with. The photo on the left is one of our brainiacs. This is a rabbi in Los Angeles. He has late-stage ALS. He has an extremely large following, but he can no longer speak. And we're very excited to be working with him right now. He's able to communicate in real time using our headset, and pretty soon, in 2025, he's going to get back on stage communicating and sharing his scripture with his big community. The picture in the middle is the BrainGate team at Brown University. They're integrating our BCI and our AR headset with implantable devices such as BrainGate. So your BlackRock Utah Array is going to be sharing data along with our system. So in the next year or two, you're going to start to see sensor fusion between implants and non-invasive in our system. And then the last picture is a fun picture in our office. These are our first pallet of shipments that have gone out. So we're very excited about this. We're now on our third pallet of devices that are going out to really revolutionary companies, clinical companies. These are some pictures of implantable sensors, which you may or may not be familiar with. So from left to right, Neuralink, Synchron, Paradromics, Precision, and BlackRock. They're all very different kinds of sensors and sensor technology, but what they all share in common is they're all on the brain, under the skull, and they all transmit their data through a transponder wirelessly to some kind of receiver. So you can imagine a future where all of these, really what's going to drive the usefulness and the utilization of implanted data are applications, right? So going back to the iPhone or the Apple Watch, there's an app for that kind of scenario. Our platform represents the app for that ecosystem that could unlock the broadest value of implantable devices. And I'm happy to say that we're working with a few of these companies to do deep integrations with our technology. Some of that news is going to be coming out later. We are building a set of first-party applications on our system called Assisted Reality, and that's going to help people drive powered wheelchairs, deal with communication, IoT smart home controls, as well as bionics for rudimentary robotic control and prosthetic controls. These are some of the specific DTX and DX applications that our active customers are working on. So you can see that just the impact of just a sample of things related to disorders of consciousness or comatose patients that are non-responsive physically and being able to identify when they are lucid, even though they're not presenting in a way that you would know that they're conscious and aware. We have folks that are developing translating analog diagnostics in concussion care using our headset. So you could imagine a future where a version of our headset could be in every single high school locker room for all the kids with contact sports to deal with like on-the-field diagnostics instead of massive amounts of ER visits. And we also have some of our customers that are doing clinical research are in the realm of diagnostics for things like schizophrenia and other kinds of mental disorders. Our business model is really around landing and supporting initial customers on their N1 R&D efforts in internal, sort of inside-out innovation at health systems. And so they typically will start with a couple of our systems initially. But the beauty of our business model is that as they go through their clinical trials, our system and platform scales up with their clinical trials proportionately. So going back to just, Morgan Stanley had just issued a really fantastic report on the state of what the BCI industry is and the size of it. They projected that in 2030 it's an $80 billion market in the US alone, $320 billion by 2045, so 20 years out. So I've never really looked 20 years out for doing any kind of forecasting. But if we sort of look at this from a market share perspective, invasive is going to occupy a pretty big impact of around 250,000 people are going to have implants in the next 20 years. That's a lot of people. However, we're going to have about 3 million people using our technology for chronic and also acute use cases. So just in kind of wrapping up, as a startup, we've been quietly building really phenomenal partnerships, and both on the research and customer side. We've also started shipping products with key integrations that you'll see here with these logos. Our company is actually the only US delegate right now with ISO on BCI standards internationally. And we have received FDA breakthrough device designation for the wearable communication endpoint of our first-party application. So if you're interested in getting involved with Cognixion, we will be looking for expanding throughout North America within healthcare systems that are doing neurology research, and in 2025 we'll be doing the same throughout Europe and the rest of the world. And we will also be doing a financing round in the Q1 timeframe to help accelerate this growth. Thank you.